Hi everyone, my name is Angela Clark and this is my husband Dan Clark.
Hey everybody.
And we're here to talk to you today from heart to heart. That's our thing that we speak from, our little platform. And what the topic today is about getting your voice. And it's been a near and dear to my heart kind of a talk that I love to give it because I think it's the most important thing that I have to offer in this world. So why is it so important? You know, I am a Christian. I profess myself to be a Christian. However, because of some people, very special people, and that I've come across, I've changed my mind about one thing, and that's that I've come to realize that we do live more than one life. And let me just explain. Don't turn me off yet. First of all, I want to tell you something. The truth is that a long time ago, I'm going to say at least before Constantine, people did understand that we lived more than one life, and it was understood, and that's how they looked at it. But things have changed. You know how things change over time, and now we no longer believe that anymore. We believe this is it. This is all we have. Well, you know, when you think about suffering, and there are people that are doing an awful lot of suffering right now, you know, the question always comes up, well, why? If this is our only life, why is it so unfair? Some people have these wonderful, luxurious lives, and they're blessed, and they have success, and they go to college, and all these things, and other people are born into abuse, born into addiction, with addicted parents. Why is it so unfair and so lopsided? Well, I'll tell you what, when you look at it, life as being one that you're to learn lessons in each of the lifetimes, you can let go of what doesn't seem to belong. You know, I mean, thankfully, when I went through a sad divorce where I lost everything, including my children in my life, you know, I didn't even know that at the time. But I was extremely grateful, and I'm so more grateful now that I know that because I can relax even more now knowing that my children are going to be okay. They're going to learn a lot of great lessons. And so getting your voice, that's one thing I had to do when I got out of my situation was I had to begin to learn to get my voice. My voice was so small that you couldn't even hardly hear it. When I'd speak, people didn't even know I was speaking. And so I was voiceless, and it felt terrible, really terrible. But even more important than that is that because of the situation that we're living in this world right now, there's a lot of need for getting our voices. And I feel like that God helped me to understand in my heart that we're living in the end of an age. So you know, there's these different ages. They're big clumps of time. You'll when you study and go along, you'll see what I'm talking about. But we're at the end of one of these clumps of time, one of these ages. And what I've come to realize is that what are we trying to learn in this one that we're ending right now? And it's that we're to get our voice. Now think about it just for a minute. If you've been abused, and who hasn't been abused anymore? I mean, look at, do we all have countless stories in our own families that we know about? Usually that's what we know about more than anything. Beyond that, maybe it's your religion you know a whole lot about, a lot of horrible, horrible abuse. In several religions that I have been involved in, I know countless, countless stories, and they're hard to swallow. But what has been the common denominator that I realize is the most important thing about all of it? Why have we all had to go through this? Why has God allowed all of this to happen to all of us? And I see that the reason why is because the reason for this particular time that we're living in right now, that we're all going together as a whole universe, really, the whole world, not just the United States, the whole world, is that we're to get our voices. And it's kind of a courageous thing. It's something that we have to do with courage, right? Even in the story, if you've ever read it, the Bhagavad Gita, the story of Arjuna, and I'm going to call him the Lord because he even calls him the Lord. But anyway, he had to be told that, look, your job in this particular time frame that you're living in is to be the soldier, the person that goes and defends your people. And he was scared to do that because he didn't want to hurt his family who were going to be fighting against him because he might kill them. But he was told that don't worry about it so much because, look, this is what you are here to do. And basically, he's encouraged to get courage and do what it is you are here to do. So I want to talk about that. Like, for example, Dan and I have heard the other day, the nurse come on to, I guess it was Facebook, and she was telling this terrible, heartbreaking thing where she's being told that something's about to change and they're going to need her department. She's a nurse, okay? And so this is going to happen and that's going to happen, all these things. And, you know, of course, what we know what that's going to be, right?
Bracing up for the next big event.
Right, the big event. And so she's all upset. Well, how do you know this? She says to her manager woman, how do you know that this is all going to happen? What's going on? And she puts her glasses down off of her nose, and she says, you know what's going on. And basically, get in line, right? So the lady's like, oh my God, I'm not doing this again. So what do we sometimes do, guys? We compartmentalize when we don't want to face things. And we lose our voices because we're full of fear, unfortunately. That's the situation. So one way I've learned to overcome fear is that when you don't want to speak, you've got to just brace up, and you've got to get your courage, and you've got to speak anyway. You've got to do what you need to do anyway, even when you don't want to do it, because it's the right thing to do. And it says in the Bible that we are to take care of the orphans and the widows and those who are, helpless and can't help themselves. Of course, duh, we know that. And to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So if you're in a helpless situation or hopeless or whatever the situation, yes, you hope to God that someone's going to take care of you. Someone's going to step up to the plate and do the right thing and not just leave you dying there. Like Jesus had that story of the man lying dead on the side of nearly dead on the side of the road. And people just pass by. Oh, I can't take care of him because it's going to mess up this for me and that person. I can't do it because blah, blah, blah. They all have their excuses. And Jesus is like, I don't care who it is. The right thing to do is you help this man. And in the story, he used a Samaritan who's they call good for nothing, worthless Samaritan. He is the one who chose to help the man and took him to the hotel, took really good care of him, paid for all of his needs, and told the hotel keeper, when I come back, I'll pay the rest if there's anything more that's needed, but he's good enough, and I'm going to go on my way now. And he left the man. He did the right thing. So the problem is that because of our fear and because of even our training, even some of the codependency rules is, keep your hands off, don't get involved in other people's business, mind your own business, get in your own body, all these different things we've been told. But the truth is that, we're being called upon to get our voices to say no in the face of evil. Dan, do you want to speak anything to this at all, or should I just keep going?
No, you're good. You're
okay.
Good. You're doing good.
And so we have got to be brave. That's what I want to say. And so I'm going to tell you another little story. We had a guy, he was a professor at a college, and he had these students, and this girl was sitting in the front row, and he said, you're no longer welcome in my classroom. I want you to leave right now. And she said, what? Me? Are you talking to me? Why? And he goes, I'm not going to say it again. You are no longer welcome in my classroom. Please leave. And so she picks up her things, and she's like, what in the world? And she leaves. And no one says anything. And how many more times have we seen that happening when no one says anything? Why do they not say anything? What are they fearing exactly?
So that teacher came back and said, did you guys get the lesson?
Yes, he came back and he said, you guys, hello, how come nobody did anything? Why did no one say anything? Why did you let me do this injustice to this woman, this thing that was unfair and unright? It was not right. Why did you not say anything? And so, his whole lesson was that you need to speak up. You need to speak out. So, we've seen different things, guys, on the news, where it's like, why didn't people stop that? Why didn't they do anything? Countless stories. What does that call it? Your uncanny camera. Countless things testing people to see if they're going to do anything about something that was horrendously bad. So we've just got to step up to the plate, because I'm telling you, think about it and think about it hard. If you wouldn't mind just thinking, I'm not trying to boss you around, I'm sorry, but if you wouldn't mind thinking about it, why do you think that, all these horrendous amounts of massive sexual abuse, for example, have been going on around the world, including in your own family, including to you personally? What do you suppose God or the universe is trying to get you to do? That, look, if there is a reason, it's not just, God's just not glad to let these things happen. He loves us. In fact, I believe He's living in me, suffering it with me, whatever's happening to me. So, it says even in the Bible that whatever you do to someone else, you've done unto me. Whatever you've done unto God, you've done unto Jesus, you've done unto God. Whatever you do to another man, you've done it unto God. And so, this is kind of a big deal. So, I just want to appeal to us to, in this crazy, life of ours, that we learn to step up to the plate and learn the lesson of this life, and learn to get our voice, even when it's hard. And I want to tell you something, when you're brave and you start getting your voice more, the more you do it, the more brave you're going to get. It's kind of like the Bible says that when God gives you something, which is a little bit of faith to and courage to speak up. Maybe you even ask for courage to speak up. So you do, and then I'm going to tell you what, next time you're more courageous, you're more willing to do it. And each time it gets easier and easier and easier, and you have a louder voice. Remember, my voice was a small mouse, don't forget. My voice was so mousy. Dan can witness, test
Oh, yeah.
to this, that you couldn't hear it. And I thought, why aren't people listening to me? I didn't even realize that my voice was small, like a little squeak. I didn't even realize it. To me, it sounded loud. And my self-esteem was so low. So if you get courageous and you say something, even if it is a little bit of a squeak, but you still speak out and you say, no, don't talk to me that way, this kind of thing. No, don't do that. You stop that right now. You're not going to do that to that woman, right? Anything, whatever it is, then you get brave and you do it even more the next time, and you do it louder, and you get more self-esteem, and you keep building and you grow until you become a very powerful person, a very useful person, to God. And so that's our job. I really do feel that that is the reason we're going through all of this right now. So the suffering, that's what moves us. It's the weirdest thing. And they always say that what moves anyone is suffering. To get someone to move in another direction, to move out of state, to move in another relationship, to do anything. Suffering has become great enough that you're willing to say something, get out of it, file for divorce, move to another state, do whatever it is. You have to be pushed. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. That's how we're wired. So I just say, why would we fight it then? Why would we fight it? If we know that, we just need to learn what we can and then be okay with the rest. Just do the best you can in each situation, and then let the rest go, knowing that we're in a play, we're in a drama, we're being asked to fulfill these certain tests, if you will. And sometimes we don't do very well on the tests, and I'm hoping that in the end we're all going to just soar. We're just going to soar with our courage and speak up and say no and cry out and surrender to God, whatever it is that you feel in that moment that you need to do, and ask for help, ask for help, ask for help. And I've asked for help. I've even said, Lord, in this scary situation I'm about ready to be in, I just ask you, please now, for your power, your authority to be upon me. And wow, did that ever work? I'm telling you what. So you could try that out too. That's another one. So I want to tell you why I became to believe that we live in more than one life. So this man came to this wonderful, very large church in Denver, Colorado, and he didn't belong there, but he just was visiting, and his name was Eben Alexander. And he told us a story, pretty fresh and new in his life, with his Harvard outfit on, his bow tie, and his, the clothes you expect people to be wearing at Harvard. And he was a dork, really, seriously, sitting on that stage. But he was a Harvard graduate brain surgeon, and he'd had a near-death experience. And what he had the most incredible story. Then when you heard it, you knew absolutely that he couldn't possibly be lying. He really did have that experience because of what happened when he got back. So I'm not going to tell that story right now, right, Dan?
Right.
Probably not should do that. But check it out. And there's a movie coming out about him right now. I don't know if it's come out quite yet, right?
No.
I don't think it has, but there's a movie being done. You know how the movies never quite make it exactly accurate, but it was a precious story, and you just had no doubt. And he had been, basically, he says now that he was nearly atheist. I'm going to say at the time, I believe that he said he was an atheist, but after that experience of his near death, and he saw God, and he heard all the sounds of heaven, and he learned so much. Now he no longer is an atheist at all, not even. And he goes around trying to recreate the sounds, the heartbeat of heaven, is how I put it. And now he's doing a movie. He's doing incredible things. But so that really got me, because that story was like, no, there's no way that could not have happened. It did. So that opened me up to then believing in Nita Moorjani's story, a Hindu woman who had a near-death experience, saw the Lord, asked every kind of question she could ever want to ask, and then was told, if you want to go back, you can. So she chose to, and she was being encouraged to help all the rest of us with all the questions we had, which of course were the ones that she had. So she's been going all around the world telling about how God did this miraculous healing in her body that was so emaciated there was nothing left of her, and how he loved her. And as Christians we think, a Hindu woman? Jesus did that for a Hindu woman? Yep, a Hindu woman. And oh my gosh, is she ever precious woman. And she's going around the whole world, changing the whole world. So those started making me want to go in and listen to all kinds of other stories of people with personal one-on-one experiences with God. And oh yeah, the story of Anita Moorjani, you couldn't question it either, because she was dead, and yet hearing discussions of everyone going on, and everything that she came back with. I mean, you just have no question that this happened to her, and that God loved on her. He doesn't only love Christians. He loves everyone. And Christians used to think Catholics were no good, and we used to despise them for different reasons, which y'all know if you're a Christian. And ends up that he's done the same for incredible, amazing Christian people. Like, for example, Ella Bagiza, that Wayne Dyer told us all about. Amazing woman, wrote an incredible book. And you have no doubt God was involved in her life, absolutely. And he used not just Hindu, but what was the other religion, Dan, that helped her in the very end? Muslim. He used a big Muslim to protect her that was asked to be her protector by a Christian, I think it was a Methodist.
She didn't ask when she was being protected, when her life was threatened, what religion are you?
No,
She just
not at all.
accepted it.
Yeah, when she was in danger, her father told her, run to the Methodist, house, and so she did, and the rest of her family, except for a very small exception, but later died, they all died. They were killed in the massacre of the Rwandan genocide that happened not that long ago, in 1980 something,
Yeah,
in 82. So she was helped by a Christian man who was then put her in charge by a Muslim man because he had to go to the States and couldn't stay there anymore. And he did a very good job. So, and he was used by God, and he saved her life, that man, and he lost his job to help her. So incredible things that God has done. So I just wanted to point that out. So I guess my point is that we've got to just choose to do the right thing in what goes on next in our lives. We've got to just be brave. Let me just see. I'm trying to read my notes so I can see if there's anything that I wanted to say so I won't kick myself later. Again, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. The nurse. I told about the nurse, didn't I?
Yep. And I would say, why is that important to know that we live more than one life? Why would that be important today?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Well, I mean, I would think that would be self-explanatory, but when we think this is the only life that we have, we're frustrated
and frightened
because it's like, oh my gosh, what if I don't become successful? Now all these fears about what if I wasn't good enough?
Don't become all that God wants me to be. What if I failed God?
Right. What if I didn't
my last chance and I didn't do it?
Yeah, my one and only chance. And so then we become angry with God because, again, like I said earlier, it's like, why, Lord? Why would you let that child die? It never had a chance. It never had a chance to do anything. It just died and it had to suffer too. Why? Well, if you realize that child is going to live another life, it's just going to go be born again. And the parents learned what? Compassion, love. They even were willing to take on all kinds of orphan kids because they felt that they couldn't have any children. And then God all of a sudden opened up her womb, and then she had children. I mean, there's countless reasons that God has for allowing these sufferings in our life. They change us forever for the better. And so, if you have a child that died at birth or never even was born, don't worry. Everything's in order here. And I recommend the movie The Shack. And if you just keep in mind that there's a big, huge clump of that story. There's a movie that came out about it. In the book, though, it explains in the end what happened, and it is miraculous. Where the guy, finds out in the end that what he thought was so real with God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit is what I'm going to call it. Those were the characters, and that's how I see those three characters. But it was very real to him. And then he finds out, no, you actually died before you ever got to this location. And in the end, what happened was it proved that something real happened because he was able to go back to the spot, go back to an area where no one could have ever, and found something extremely important. There was a reason why he was angry and bitter and depressed and dying, and why God intervened in his life, because he had been a pastor and he became very bitter because of a very bad event. And so in the end, though, in the book, you see where he was taken to the very place where something very important was discovered, and it proved that it was all real. And he was changed forever, and he's been at peace ever since. And so God is very much involved in our lives, very real, and I'm very convinced, very, very convinced that we live more than one life. And this one is just here for lessons. This is kind of like a training ground. It's kind of a drama. It's not behind it all is the real life of ourselves, the real who we really are. This is kind of a simulator type situation, and God is in it with us. So anyway, I hope that helps. I don't like to go against the flow because I'm still a little bit codependent. I don't really like to do that, but at the same token, because people are suffering so much, and because I don't want them to be angry with God. I mean, if you knew that the child that you lost, or the reason why your children denied you and rejected you because of religion or something like that, you're like, you know what? Not to worry. I'm going to learn the lessons I'm here to learn. I'm going to learn to forgive. I'm going to learn to trust God. I'm going to learn to, surrender to God. I'm going to trust my children to God. I'm going to learn a lot by what I suffer. It says Jesus learned by what he suffered. And so if you understand, Jesus was also Melchizedek, and truth would be told, he was more than just Melchizedek. He lived many lives. That was one of his lives. Everyone agrees that was the king of Salem, the high priest with no lineage, on and on and on. Well, it's not the only time. He lived many lives to become the Christ that he became. And we're having to do the same. Jesus said, don't be marveling at what I'm doing here, guys, to his disciples. For these and greater you're going to do. And I don't believe he's just talking to the disciples. I believe he's talking to every single one of us. And so through the lifetimes, as we overcome, we're going to become powerful and amazing and become Christ-like. And we're trying to do that right now. So anyway, I hope this helps you. Take what you want and leave the rest. If you don't like it, that's fine. I get it. But that's where I have come to, and I have known my Bible more than most people in the whole world, really, and I've come to realize that there are many more important works and truth out there that makes it whole, I guess you would say, from my way of looking at it. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I guess we'll say over and out for now.
All right, over and out.
Have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.